All right, I'm gonna be honest. Moving to an English-speaking country will not make you fluent in English. A lot of people believe this. They think that if they go to Canada, the US, or the UK, then they're magically going to become fluent in English. This is not true. This is actually completely false. And I've seen instances where people have lived in Canada for 10, 15, 20 years even, and they're still not fluent. They still lack the confidence to speak English. Just because they're in Canada, just because they're in the US, doesn't mean that they're fluent in English. You see, it doesn't matter where you are, it matters what you do. You could be in Australia, you could be in Canada, you could be in any English-speaking country and only spend time with people who still speak your language. You have to spend time speaking English. If you don't speak English, you will never become fluent. It's very common for people to move to a new country and to only spend time with people from their own country. Now, there's nothing wrong with this per se, but again, if your goal is to become fluent in English, you have to speak English. And there are a couple things you can do to start speaking English more, which are really going to work wonders for your fluency. The first one is sports. I love suggesting this to anybody who has this problem. If they're in an English-speaking country and they don't have the opportunity to speak English for whatever reason, I always suggest finding a program, a class, something active you can do once or twice a week with people who speak English, not necessarily as a first language, but with people who don't speak the same language as you do. It'll give you an opportunity to speak English with these people, and it will give you an opportunity to connect over something else, like sports. For example, if you love soccer, find a soccer association in your city. You can go to Facebook groups, you can do a quick Google search. It's super easy to find these. You can even ask around your local community center, for example, but do something once a week. And sports is a great way of connecting with people because the focus isn't English. The focus is the activity. And if you're somebody who finds it difficult to speak, if you get nervous, if you feel shy to speak, sports is great because you're actually a bit distracted. You're more focused on the activity than you are on the language. And this is really good if you're somebody who gets nervous when you speak, somebody who, maybe feels embarrassed to speak English. If you're distracted, if you're focused on something else, it's going to help you a lot in that situation. So find something to do. If you don't like sports, if you don't like exercise, try it. If it's not for you, there are other hobbies you can do. Facebook groups is incredible. You can search basically anything on Facebook and you can find a group in your city, especially if you live in a larger city. All right, the second thing you have to do, and this applies to you if you are somebody who spends a lot of time with people from your own country speaking your own language. You need to speak English even with people from your own country. I have a student who came to Canada originally from Iran, and she spent a lot of time speaking Persian. Everything changed for her the moment she started speaking more English. She felt more confident, she felt more fluent, she felt more at home in Canada the moment she started speaking more English. And she also spoke English with people from her own country in Canada. Because guess what? They're in the same situation as you. They also moved to an English-speaking country. They also maybe don't have as much opportunity to speak English as they would like. So why not speak English together? There's no rule that says you have to speak your native language with people from your own country. Speak English with them. Not necessarily all the time, but 3 hours, 4 hours a week, that makes a huge difference. You're spending more time in English, you're giving yourself and your brain more opportunity to become familiar with the language, and ultimately it's going to be a lot easier to become fluent in English. So speak English even with people from your own community if you are spending a lot of time with those people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you do have a common goal, a shared goal to improve your English, speak English together. Now, a lot of people say that they don't want to speak English with non-native speakers because they're worried that nobody's going to correct their mistakes. They're worried that if they speak English with people from their own country or with people who speak English as a second language, they're going to form bad habits. It's going to be difficult to correct those habits, and it's not as useful as speaking with a native speaker. Now, I fundamentally disagree with this, and for one reason. When you speak with a native English speaker, they're probably not going to correct your mistakes either. I'm sure you've experienced this. People are polite, for starters, and of course people don't even think about grammar. They don't even think about proper pronunciation, correct conjugations when they're in a conversation with somebody else. Right? People are more focused, one, on themselves, and two, on communicating and understanding the purpose of the conversation. Native English speakers will very, very, very rarely offer any sort of correction to you when you speak English with them, even if you ask. Okay, that's why it is very useful if you are worried about making mistakes and you're worried about forming bad habits to study with a teacher, to study with somebody who is actually there to correct you for the purpose of correcting you. So if you are interested in studying with me and my team, click the link in the description below to apply. We have several online programs that I know will help you improve your English, and we've helped thousands of students in your position. So just because you speak with native speakers doesn't mean they're going to correct you. It doesn't mean that it's better or it's easier just because they're a native English speaker. The other thing is, statistically, you are more likely to speak with non-native speakers than you are to speak with native English speakers. You might not have known this, but there are actually more non-native speakers, so people who speak English as a second language, than there are people who speak English as a first. I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head right now, but last I checked, I think there are something like 1.4 or 1.5 billion speakers of English in the world. 1 billion of those are non-native speakers, and 400 million, approximately 500 million, are native speakers. So there are actually more non-native speakers of English than there are native speakers. Now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, it means that you are much more likely to encounter a non-native speaker than you are to encounter a native speaker. That means you need to understand their accent. You need to understand their way of speaking. You need to understand the idiosyncrasies in their pronunciation. It doesn't matter if they're a native speaker or non-native speaker, you're still communicating in English, which is now the global language, and you need to be able to understand them. You need to be able to communicate with them. That's why it's not better to speak with a native speaker than it is to speak with a non-native speaker. It's just different, and it helps you in different ways. Speaking with an American will help you understand the American accent. Speaking with somebody from China will help you understand the Chinese accent in English, for example. So, in summary, if you are living in an English-speaking country or you want to move to an English-speaking country, you need to spend as much time in English as possible. Don't make the mistake of thinking that moving to an English-speaking country will automatically make you fluent, because it will absolutely not. Again, it matters what you do, not where you are. So spend more time in English, do something once or twice a week, sports, hobbies, something social, a social activity in English. And of course, if you do communicate mostly with people who speak your own language, try to communicate with them in English. They're in the exact same position as you, and I'm sure they want to improve their English as well. So use that time together to speak English. If you found this video useful, let me know in the comments. Are you in an English-speaking country? Where are you? How long have you been there? And if you aren't in an English-speaking country, would you like to move to Canada, to the US, to the UK? to Australia. Have you ever been? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to English at the Ready here on YouTube for more lessons. If you would like to improve your English with me and my team, click the link in the description below to apply. We have several programs available, which I know will help you improve your speaking, listening, writing, vocabulary, grammar, and so much more. I'll see you in the next video.